Okay, I wanted to record this because I have restarted my character in PoE 2. I've skipped the intro, it was just selecting a character. So yeah, I wanted to do this as sort of like a showcase or like a demo of the game for people that maybe don't want to put 30 quid down for a year of early access for something they don't even know that they'll like, which will then be free to play in a year. So I thought I would just show off the game and sort of the not new features. I want to show it off as if you've not experienced Path of Exile before, but if you have already tried it and found it completely overwhelming as I did, then this might be helpful for you. So off the bat, we get the biggest choice, the biggest change, which to me is actually like fantastic, is traditional mouse style movement where you move by clicking where you are or where you want to go. And yeah, it's all done on the mouse. I quite like this just as an option because there have been times in my history where I have been without the use of one arm, and being able to play an entire game with just a mouse is fantastic. But yeah, optimally, technically, I think WASD is optimal. But also, it just kind of feels really nice. So I'll show off WASD now. It is, it's Twin Stick is the name for it. I think of it as that little COD Zombies minigame in Black Ops, that little Easter egg. So yeah, my character will face wherever my cursor is, and he will move with W, A, S, and D. So now, I can moonwalk through an entire fucking game. Oh, sorry, yeah, I gotta talk to the wounded man. Hello, wounded man.
Another living soul.
I am the son of man.
Miller went off to warn Clearfell about a strange sickness plaguing our men. I was fixing to go after him, till that bloody thing now.
Oh shit.
All those who drowned in the flooding, suddenly they ain't so dead no more. I would appreciate it if you could... Reach Clearfell. Find the Miller.
Okay, yeah.
Clearfell could be in danger. I'd best hurry.
Keybinds are not the same. I've already changed them to basically be WoW. But yeah, typically it's I for inventory. We still have the Diablo style, Tetris inventory, which I personally really like. Oh yeah, by default you would have a mini-map up here, but typically you hit tab and you get this thing. I have changed it. I personally recommend, actually, an interface. You can kind of jig about the options for the map. So show corner map, it would, if I hit tab again, then there's the mini-map up there. I personally don't like it. Auto center map, do that, because, yeah. Fiddling about with this thing is a pain. So landscape transparency is actually what... It's showing what the actual map is, in a sense. It's projecting the actual 3D models onto this. You can get rid of that completely. In fact, I am going to, because it just kind of becomes a bit distracting, personally. Map transparency this is the actual... Basically, this is the actual ground that the game is showing you. You can select zoom, all that kind of stuff. That's entirely up to you. I like to have it kind of out. But yeah, here... if you've ever played Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, it's the exact same, but not horrible and gritty. So, yeah, before I just kind of go anywhere, I just kind of want to show off some of the menus, because there is a couple of things to do. When you hit in WASD, or in anything, you have a bit of a move. So, notice that he has travel time. If I click close enough to me, I won't move. If I click far away, he'll take a little step. That is actually added on to your move speed. That's the other new feature. So potions have also been massively simplified. In the first one, you had 5 completely customizable potion slots, where you could have had 5 life flasks if you were enough of a baller. Now it's just you have 1 health, 1 mana, and then 3 what we call I think they're like pendants or something. They just have kind of passive effects as far as I'm aware. The only 2 actives are your life and health flask. Also by default, space is a dodge roll. This has no cooldown, and it does have restrictions, so it is not the distance of the dodge roll is completely independent of your move speed. So I have some boots in my stash which will give me 10% increased move speed. Has no effect on my dodge. The dodge is completely fixed. It does have iframes if I can get one of these guys to attack me, and I actually do it right. Not a good display because they're... yeah, you can just kind of get out of the way. It lets you just sort of, yeah, avoid things. There's no cooldown, but it's... again, it doesn't benefit from any external things unless there may be talents in the tree. I haven't looked at them. But yeah, melee combat is now a lot more in our control. We can move backwards and hit. Now this is the big thing. You still, in WASD, have shift to stay still. But if you go into, by default, G, your skills menu, new thing. So now we don't even have... we don't have to equip skills to our gear anymore. Or at least early on we don't. There may be some more stuff. I haven't got that far yet. But yeah, your skills now have their own dedicated menu. Up at the top, we have our gem capacity. Before, you would have to socket into your gear. All gear had sockets. You couldn't not find gear with sockets. And you had to manually socket skills into these, and then your support skills had to be on connected sockets. That is very complicated. This is massively simplified. So I picked up a mace. I have Mace Strike. It goes whack, and that's just your basic attack. That is now a core component of combat, and you can equip supports for it, which I don't have. But I could do stuff like add a bleed chance, add fire damage, add certain like execution effects to it. It's pretty handy. And again, no grinding required now, just to get your abilities going, which is the biggest pull of this game. What I wanted to say as well is sometimes hitting with a travel time can be good, but like that, it's quite negligible there, but you will notice on higher, which especially we'll see on the warrior, with higher movement options, that travel and wind-up time becomes very big. So what I would recommend doing strongly is if you go into your abilities, oh yeah, also shields have a directional block, which has a 100% block chance. It's pretty good. I don't know why I can't see the tooltip for that, but yeah. You can see your DPS. Those numbers are kind of irrelevant, if I'm honest. Again, big breakdown. The major thing for this menu for me is here. Always attack without moving. You click that on. I no longer need to break my pinky by holding shift. My character will simply not move. So I can now back up and attack while I'm backing up. Much safer, much more feasible to use just as a thing. I'm not entirely sure how it works with ranged, I'll be honest. I do not like ranged characters in lots of games, so I haven't bothered to do it, but I think it would be very fun in this game. And I'm 99% certain you can shoot on the move. Even if you can't, you're at such an advantage compared to this little dickhead here. The start is quite simple. We're just going through... I'm going to take this off. So I wonder... Yeah, I took like no health. I should probably have put the things on, but I'm lazy. There's also a cool little graphical thing where your shield actually has like an interaction box on the model. So I can't really highlight it, but basically when things shoot you, their projectiles, even if they are a hit, will actually impact on your shield. It's just a really cool graphical thing. This is our first equipable skill. So those two there, what this means is that it's coming from your gear, so you don't actually care. This one is equipable, so we can just go whop up, and I can put that kind of anywhere. So here we have Rolling Slam. Once again, to do that, you can even select. There are weapon sets again. This is quite early access. We only have maces at the moment. So skill gem, bam.
What power?
It's a pretty slow move, but it can be very fun, in my opinion. I actually have been known to enjoy it. Oh yeah, before I move on as well, if you are ever unsure of what an ability does, why are you not letting... Okay, there we go. Oh, it's there. Okay, so this is a very basic. I'll actually use this one instead. So if you're ever unsure of what an ability does, hover over it and hold Alt, and everything will kind of light up. This tooltip will freeze in place. And what we can do is we can go and have a breakdown of every single term, piece of info that you're confused about. So by default, the ability is a bit vague. Slam the ground to stun enemies and knock them away, then continue forward to perform a devastating second slam. Holding down the input will allow you to change directions as you move. Pretty simple and straightforward on this one. We have a breakdown even. Here's the generic rolling slam info. You can see the breakdown for each of these here. And the bits that are underlined are important because this game has very specific terminology for different bits. So if you look on the top left here, we have attack. Then there is, on the bottom, we can see sort of, what would you call, like, affixes to this. So Rolling Slam is an attack with the properties of AoE, area of effect, melee, and slam. These all have importance in some way, shape, or form. Warriors will tend to buff melee abilities, especially slams. They quite like slams, but, like, for example, Mace Strike is not a slam. It is a strike, which means that your weapon hits the enemy, not the ground. A slam is basically an untargeted melee attack. You can think of it like that. There are abilities later on in the game that will have interactions depending on whether or not you're using other slams. So that's the main thing. You'll kind of just get used to other terms. I find it does become very intuitive. Like, there's a lot of info, and the important thing is to just... And this isn't the most fun thing. But if you can, just, like, don't feel intimidated and just use that alt thing to just read what an ability does. Because, oh yeah, I also didn't show the best thing. if even with all of that you are completely fucking perplexed by what this does, just tucked away here.
Rolling Slam strikes twice and can be redirected as you move. The first slam is effective for stunning enemies. The second slam is larger and deals more damage.
So there we are. A pure demonstration in a video and a little recorded voiceover to tell you how it works. It's pretty handy. The major thing with that is it even specified that how the first and second hits work. And that will be important because what you can do is animation cancel. So if I right click, I can start the stun and I can just go stun, out, stun, out. So even though this has a long wind up, you don't actually have to stay for the entire hit.
Tempered by victory.
Hence, I'm not gonna do that yet. I think I may have to. Yeah, hence, you can see the breakdown for certain things. If you have a multi-hit attack, you can generally, like, even when I'm in the air there, you are not locked into the animation. The dodge roll is your best friend, and it's oh, actually, never mind. I thought I just did something weird. I think that was a bug. I just started walking halfway through. So there's more animation locking in this than, especially in PoE 1. Probably about the same animation locking as Diablo 4, as like the most direct comparison. However, this is just much more, I don't know how I would describe it. It is just a lot more, friendly. Like, your attacks aren't super committal. At any point during a wind-up, during an anything, you can dodge and it costs no resource. So do bear that in mind. Never feel committed to an attack. The major thing is going back to what I said at the very, very start. The dodge is completely unaffected by any modifiers, any movement speed modifiers. So you are committing to this in the sense of, even though you can evade out, that could be much, much slower. Oh, well, it is much, much slower than actually just walking. So there's a fun balance to be struck between walking and dodging, and whether you need higher consistent movement or just a short, like, burst of iframes. So last sort of kind of bit of this is it wants me to allocate the skill point, and I want it to shut up, so I'm going to just do this quickly now. So every class starts off here, in the center of the passive skill tree. Now, if you are easily overwhelmed, this looks absolutely nightmarish. Look at all these nodes. Realistically, we're not going anywhere near to half of them. Like, we're not going this way. Every class starts in the center of this. Depending on the class, will depend on where you are allowed to start. So, Warrior, the game is kind of split. You can sort of tell by color coding this. So, both of our abilities are red. This is where the Warrior and the Marauder will start as the primarily strength-based classes. If I was a Ranger or a Huntress going Dex, I would be starting in the Dex side of the tree. Int, you start up here, and then comes the hybrids. So you have like the Shadow and the Monk, which are Dex Int, will start between Dex and Int. Templar, Dryad are Strength and Int, so they'll start here. Duelist and another, I can't remember its name, are Dex and Strength. They'll start here. Just a general thing as well. You'll get... There's sort of a like an unofficial understanding of how each of these work. So it's not that there's a fixed number of playstyles, but the nodes on this tree lend themselves to certain playstyles. So warrior and Templar, they both kind of overlap in a way, being strength, and you're close enough to the Templars like mixed tree, where towards the int end of the strength tree comes things like totems, auras. Towards the dex end comes your more physical attacks with accuracy boosts, armor, that kind of thing. You'll get survival things throughout all of these trees, but yeah, again, I can't say for certain because it's a new game, it's new everything. But, like, for example, I personally like to hit things. I'm a melee player in most things. So I would typically pick a duelist, or whatever the other one is, to have strength dex. That's pretty much the purely physical side of the tree. We don't have any of them yet, so I'm going warrior for the big hitty. And I'm probably, like, if you kind of zone out, not zone out, if you, well, we're zoomed out, you can sort of see that it's kind of split into these little zones. That's mostly for navigation. And this isn't concrete, again, this is a lot more abstract, but, like, we can sort of have a look at what's in these. So this is more about ice damage, mana regen, energy shields. So this is your sort of more like spellcasty survival, your buffs and your war cry. Again, not a rule of thumb, not a hard set anything, but like this is strength. If we were to, this is the strength start, going from about here to here. This is what I would call the strength portion of the tree. And we just have a broad assortment of melee buffs. There's a little fire one. It actually looks like a little calcifer. That's quite cute. So yeah, we've got like heavy stun mace. Looks like a hammerhead. This one, onslaught. It looks kind of like an axe head. Whatever the hell this one is. I don't think they really thought about it. Circle is like, there's a blood droplet for life leech. Here's more fire. So you can, again, there's some intuitive stuff that they've done. Oh, sorry, I've only just noticed. This is so cute. There's a little crossbow there. What is this one? Is this spears? Giant Slayer. So this is just kind of execution. That's pretty cool. There's a spear. There's a bow. These are adorable. I think this is oh, that's projectiles. That's an arrowhead. But yeah, there's lots of silliness that you can kind of see in this. I think they really like to get creative with it. This one kind of looks like a guillotine, so it's more culling strike. Again, similar to the other things, you can just kind of have a look. Culling strike is execution. Just a passive chance to execute. But yeah, you can kind of just sort of see, like, for example, if I were going to a fire build, which is actually what I want to do now, you don't even have to know what you want to do either. But just at a glance, we see, look, there's a little flame. Physical damage is extra fire damage. That's pretty good. Our strength that boosts our physical damage now also gives us elemental damage. Over here, chance to ignite, heavy stun, inflict fire exposure. Again, just buffing our fire damage even more. 75% of damage converted to fire damage, deal no non-fire damage. We can kind of get the idea. This is sort of more the magic-y end of the tree. And then over here we see like there's axes, shields, weapons. So like they're not hard set in these categories, but it's a lot more, I think it's a lot more manageable, especially graphically, than it used to be. Now, after saying all of that, Ironically, generally for these smaller nodes, what we want to do is prioritize survivability, because our damage will largely come from our weapon damage inherently, and that's kind of true for most things.
Brannock?
You generally want to go for survival with those smaller nodes or main stats. Oh. Ow. Yeah. I'm going to take the map off for bosses because you kind of need to be looking a lot more. Now. Yep, and stunned. Yeah, up the top. Stun is now... It's a very popular mechanic recently. Is to have stun be like an actual... You can sort of see the bar, and as we're hitting them, it was orange because he was recently stunned. That's a state that we can buff later. But yeah, we're just... I'm using the quicker, more reliable, just basic attack to build up stun, deal damage, and then using my mana spender to just sort of whack. We are going to later use more mana spenders, but like, I think the idea that they want to go for is for melee, you are very much playing a melee character. Like, we can buff the melee damage. We can let it generate stacks of buffs for us. There's a lot going on with this, and...
I'm sorry, Brannock. It was me, or you.
And there we are, Brannock's dead. We can go forward. That's just a very generic run-through of the systems. It's, like, again, crash course. If you just want to see how the game plays, this is so... It's so meaty. I really, really like the melee gameplay. Later on, we will get to parts where I really, really do not like the melee gameplay. But that's a problem for future Adam and for future us. Yeah, for now, this has been a very brief rundown, and I'm going to go have a cup of tea because I'm thirsty and my throat hurts.